for it to matter to you, Megabonk is 10 times better than Silksong. You have to be a dipshit. Your brains have to just be two hamsters running around on wheels, jerking each other off while they do it.
In some capacity. So one of the most highly anticipated games in a long time came out recently, Silksong. And I'm gonna be open right away, I didn't like it. Also think it's a little bit of a masterpiece. And I also want to talk about a different game, Megabonk. Also came out about the same time as Silksong. And this game, I think, is a much better game. I would even say 10 times better than Silksong. And that's a little hypocritical of me to say, because I'm also going to say you can't compare these games. I'm not good at either of the games. I'm not a good gamer. I'm a bad gamer. I'm a loser gamer. The difficulty of these games actually has nothing to do with my enjoyment. And leave that comment that I'm mad because bad. Because you're right, I am bad. It is mostly about frustration. Frustration is handled entirely differently between these games. There is no boss in this game, except for, like, the Moss Mother in the beginning, that I did not have at least a 10-run atrocious battle with. But the bosses are not what drove me crazy in this game. The bosses have been good. The bosses have been very good. The bosses almost across the board have been more interesting than Hollow Knight that I experienced up until where I stopped playing. They're not what mounted so much frustration that I am now even entertaining the silly comparison of, is Megabonk 10 times better than Silksong? The problem that I ended up having with Silksong is it feels as though it utterly resents your time. It feels as though it hates you for playing it. Mistakes are punished beyond a failure state. Endless, extraneous punishment for failure. Because when you fail in this game, it's not just a failure state. You don't get to just try again. You have to then walk all the way back to wherever you failed from to reclaim your resources. Which, yeah, that's typical of Souls games. It is a staple that was established by Dark Souls 1. That is not really the aspect that is genuinely frustrating. But there is an immense gap in distance between benches in this game. The barrier to re-entry after failure can be minutes long. To simplify the example, it would be like if you had to sit through a 4-minute long loading screen between failures. I guess for this example, it also only counts down if you're watching it, because you can't just walk away and then have it be solved. You're sitting through a loading screen that only counts down if you're watching it. And you have to do that for 4 minutes before you can play another run. You might be obsessed with the game. You might be. You might be totally in on it. It might be the most fun, most beautiful, most artistic game ever. But if you have to wait 4 minutes of just staring at a blank loading screen between every failure, you're not going to persevere. The reason that Souls-like games that are difficult are also fun and addicting is that the barrier to re-entry is low. You want to keep trying, and you want to overcome the difficulty, because you're only a stone's throw away from victory constantly. Whenever you fail, you only roll back down a little. So you can see the improvement that you need to achieve. Imagine if in a game like Elden Ring, you had to make a run back all the way through every one of the dungeons in the game. Like the smaller minor dungeons. Let's be real. The minor dungeons aren't interesting. At least not past the first couple. And some of the bosses aren't that good either. If they had not given you Stakes of Marika to allow you to immediately retry the bosses, how many people would have died to one of those bosses the first time, realized you had to make a whole run back through that dungeon, and go, hold on, I'm not doing that again? I think it would be a decent number of people. At the very least, it's a non-zero number of people. Now, did those Stakes of Marika make the game easier? I don't think they did. You still had to be good enough to make it through the dungeon. You still had to be good enough to beat the boss. An example of how difficulty does not really need and is hurt by the introduction of frustration. And Megabonk, as a comparison, while a terrible game to push against Silksong on almost every level, still does something exceptionally well that is also the same thing that I have the most problem with Silksong over. What's so fun about Megabonk's failure states, though? Because, let me tell you, I have had dozens of runs in Megabonk that last less than a minute. Again, because I'm bad. I'm real bad. I suck at video games, alright? But they don't feel frustrating in the slightest. Why? Because failure is just a failure state. It's nothing more. You know how long it takes you to get back into the action and try again? 4 seconds. I can ram the A button the moment I leave an endgame screen and be back in a game in 4 seconds. That's all that's standing between me and trying again. There is no frustration, essentially. Or at least I experience no frustration for a loss. I have some disappointment, like, darn, I really had the stars aligned on that one, and I flubbed it anyways. Like, I got offered legendaries real early. Or, oh, that shopkeeper had a legendary item in it as soon as I started the game, and then I fell off of a ramp because I'm terrible onto the head of an enemy and instantly died. It hurts. It sucks. But, it was all my fault, and, oh well, I'm trying again. Because, you know, I can have that good roll. It's very fun. And the frustration is almost non-existent because there is no barrier to retrying. These are different genres of game. They have different mechanics, different art styles. Everything about them is entirely and totally different. You can't really compare them as games. That's why the only thing I'm going to compare them on is a very subjective interpretation of fun via the guideline of barrier to re-entry, or punishment on top of failure, of which Megabonk has none. You can get back into a game almost immediately. It rewards you with trying again by allowing you to try again in under 10 seconds. It'll also allows you to change up your tries with characters, multiple characters, and multiple items that you can toggle on and off, multiple weapons and tombs. There are 3 different categories of equipment in Megabonk that you can toggle some of on and off to change the chances at which you find things. These are all components that not only make you want to try again because this outcome might be different because of deliberate choices you make, on top of random chance, which these choices mitigate frustration that can be introduced by feeling like, oh, that was unlucky, and also balancing it between the highs of, oh, that was really lucky, by making it feel like you have little choices you can really nudge things in the direction of each time you play. Silksong doesn't just punish you for your failure, but it also does something that I think we can compare to Megabonk, which is you don't feel like you can experiment as much by trading around your tools. Produce the most gameplay change from attempt to attempt. Your tools run off a limited resource that you lose on use when you die, or just on use in general, even if you don't die. It's just another part of the game that doesn't really respect your time and mounts frustration unnecessarily. So, my experience in the game was, I would try something, and if I was using tools, I would run through all of my resource for those tools in normally 10 attempts or less. This actively punishes you for trying things, too. Because if you make an attempt and go, ugh, that one tool didn't really work out all that well, well, let's try this other tool, and then it works out less well, you're down on shards now. You have even less shards to use the tool that worked better. So you have fewer attempts that you can try with the better tool. So you're disincentivized from even switching things up. The game punishes you for trying new things, which is crazy to me for a game to do. Because the runbacks are egregious. They're a barrier to retrying. They're just another way to mount frustration. The loss of shards that are required on tools not only mounts frustration and increases more time wasting for failing beyond the failure state, but also disincentivized me to experiment with other tools. Disincentivized me to even use tools in general, because if I relied on tools but still failed, well, now I have to farm to try and use those tools again in my winning run. And because of it, almost every winning run I had would be because I learned an encounter so well that I was able to do it without the tools. Because I would always eventually run out of shards and go, fuck it, I'm not spending 30 minutes farming shards just so I can try again with the tools. Because not everything drops shards, and the things that do drop shards drop very little. One of the locations I remember I was farming up shards, the only close by enemy to the boss was this single guy on a ledge, and he dropped 7 shards. 7. Your capacity is 400. The tool I was using used 40. Just each attempt, if I used it all of its ammo, of which it only has 6. If I used all 6 of its ammo each attempt, I had to farm up 40 shards. Like I said, playing Silksong often felt like you had to watch a loading screen between deaths. A 4-minute long loading screen that only moves if you're watching. So even for the parts that I enjoyed, it was just too much. I'll fully admit, at this point, I have fully given up on Silksong. I'm not going to play it. I haven't beat it. And I just don't think I'm ever going to play it again. So frustrated by aspects of the game that my interest in its world, its characters, and its art was entirely undone by my lack of enjoyment to breadcrumb me along. So if we're acknowledging it's a really stupid comparison, and it's not even a real comparison, why am I comparing it? Why am I comparing? And to a certain degree, I'm not. I'm using this as a vehicle to gripe about an aspect of Silksong that I really don't like, because I really do want to like the game. I really did want to play and experience the game and enjoy it. And I just don't. And because of that, I feel a little bit of a need to express just a small comparison using a stupid vehicle.
How do you even think of such a dumbass comparison? Dude, what? Okay, listen to me. King of the Hill is 10 times better than Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Like, sure, one of these things is like...
I agree with his sentiment in every way, and this is entirely the inspiration for why I am the 2 Gooner hamsters